Good morning, Lower Moreland. Today we're going to do a TV review, and the show I'm going to review is called Doctor Who. And it's a British show, so really the only place you can watch it is either online or if you have the network BBC America. And so first we're going to talk about the main characters. And so every couple of seasons, or as they call it in England, series, the series are called seasons, so it's kind of confusing sometimes. The characters change, but there's always a man called the Doctor. Even though a different actor plays every series or so, they make it so he regenerates, which I'll get onto later because it's confusing. And so he also has a companion, which again changes. Sometimes there's more than one, but you always have one to travel around. So the actors that have played him, the Doctor, in the past, in order, are William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, and then now Matt Smith, of course. There have been a lot of famous guest stars on Doctor Who, and some of them you might actually recognize, so I'll name a couple that you might know. So Timothy Dalton, might know him as James Bond, Anthony Head, who was Giles in Buffy, Alex Kingston from ER, McFly, Kylie Minogue, of course, singer, Michael Gambon, who is the latest Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, Bill Nye, but not the science guy, because a different famous Bill Nye, and David Walliams. Now I'm going to give you some background information about the show, and it might sound kind of confusing, which is kind of why you have to watch it and kind of understand it, but I'll try. So the Doctor is from a planet called Gallifrey, and his species are called Time Lords, but they look like humans, they're not like aliens or anything. But along with his TARDIS, which stands for Time and Relative Dimensions in Space, he travels the universe and through space and time. So if you start from the new series, which I would recommend it because it saves you a lot of time, because there's a lot of old seasons, but it doesn't, as long as you start from the beginning of the new series or anywhere in the old series, it's good. So it's good to know some background knowledge. One of the most important things you need to know is that there's something called the Time War, which involved a lot of planets. And his planet, Gallifrey, along with all of his people, were killed in the Time War. And technically, they're put in a time lock, but he always refers to them as dead because they're basically dead. And their enemies in Time War were called the Daleks, and they're a recurring alien enemy in Doctor Who, and he always thinks he kills them, but they always come back, so there's a lot of episodes with the Daleks. So currently the companions on the show are Amy Pond, Rory Williams, and then River Song pops in for some different episodes. And so Amy Pond, as you'll see in the tutorial later, she's the one with the red hair, and she met the Doctor and she was really little, but there's this whole thing where he left, and he left for longer than he thought he left. So several years later, they met up again, and she told him, and she was angry with him, but they had to save the universe, so had to leave that behind, had to get rid of that grudge. And Rory Williams, in the first episode you see him in, he is Amy's boyfriend. But as you'll see later, Amy's getting married, but you have to watch to see if they actually get married or not and what happens. And he's also in the trailer. He's the one who hangs out with Amy. That's not the Doctor, so you'll see him in the trailer too. River Song she made her first entrance in Series 4, and she was really mysterious because she knew the Doctor, but he didn't know her. So the whole thing is that their timelines cross, but not in order for them. So the more she knows him, the less he knows her. But the more he knows her, the less she knows him. So it's really, really confusing. There have been pictures drawn of their timeline, but it just confuses even more. Even if you watch the show, you're going to be confused. So just kind of have to go with it. And her identity is actually revealed this series. I'm not going to tell you it because that would ruin everything. But it was definitely a shocker. And the writers, they always throw things in to shock you. You won't be able to guess episodes usually. Some of them you're kind of get it because some of them have the same storyline. But other ones are, you just can't guess them. And they're just really brilliant. And it's great writing. Doctor is actually the longest running sci-fi. And a lot of people think it's Star Trek, but that is not true. It's actually Doctor Who, which has been broadcasting since 1963. However, it did go on a hiatus in 1989 until they had a movie in 1996, and then the series again was revived in 2005. So it's still the longest running sci-fi series with over 30 seasons if you count the new ones and stuff, but actually before it stopped broadcasting it was like at 26, I think, or around there. So there were tons and tons of seasons. It might have even been 36. So there's a lot of seasons, and there's not but they're not exactly full seasons from the old time it was broadcasted. Like they're not like 22 episode seasons. Like the ones now are about like 14 episodes. But that's why I recommend start the new series if you don't have like a lot of time to start from the very beginning, because I haven't seen all the old ones, but they are really great as long as you don't mind some bad technical stuff. But yeah, the whole series is really good no matter where you start from. So there are main writers, they're head writers for the show. Even though there's a lot of guest writers, the main writers still have the whole storyline for like the whole series, and then they do the series premiere and the series finale. So from 2005 to 2010, so you started and he revived it, was Russell T Davies. And it's funny because most of the writers are just like really huge fans of the show from when they were watching it when they were kids, so it's kind of nice because they do a really good job. And so Russell T Davies left in 2010, but he actually has a spin-off show, which is called Torchwood, which is also really, really good, but it's a whole different like thing, sort of like it's Doctor Who's more for kids, and Torchwood isn't exactly more for kids. But he also has another spin-off called The Sarah Jane Adventures, and Sarah Jane is probably one of the most famous Doctor Who companions there is. And so he did that, and that's like a children's show, which I've heard great things from. But unfortunately, the main character, Sarah Jane, played by Elizabeth Sladen, she died last year, so they had to stop that, which is really sad because she was like a really, really good actress. And now the present writer is Stephen Moffat, who's been writing since 2010, but he always worked with Doctor Who. Like he was like a co-writer before with Russell T Davies, but now he's the head writer. So they're all really brilliant writers, and they always find their way out of, like, they try to do all these different storylines, and they're crazy, but they find the Doctor. He finds his way out of there somehow, always. So before I go any farther, I want to explain to you regeneration is, because the Doctor's faces change, which is really confusing because he's the same guy, but he's not the same guy. And so they have a way of cheating death, the Time Lords do, and it's called regeneration. So if you don't instantly die, then you get something which is called regeneration, and basically it just kind of heals your body, but it gives you a new body. And the reason that they decided to do this was because the first Doctor, the guy playing him, his health wasn't doing so great, so they're kind of like afraid what's going to happen. So the writers who they liked the series, and the series was doing pretty well, they needed to think of a way to bring the show back if they didn't have their lead actor anymore. So they came up with a generation, and so that's basically how the Time Lord cheats death. However, if they were to die instantly, then they would be dead, which is one of the things in Series 6 that they touch upon. And so you have to see what happens, see if the Doctor really dies or how he escapes it. And all I can say is that the writers are very, very, very brilliant writers, and the way they did it was very, very clever.
He has saved your lives so many times and you never even knew he was there.
I trust that Mike's the end of the universe. And actually, with me. It's you.
Oh my God, it's you.
Hello. I'm the Doctor.
Absolutely fantastic.
Hello, Z.
I'm coming for you, I swear, whatever happens, however hard, however far you fly.
My friend.
Are you my mommy?
Where is my wife? Back into the Time War, Rassilon!
Big flashy lights things have got me written all over them. Not actually. Give me time and a crayon.
What?
I'll never know what. Run!
I'm the Doctor. I'm a Time Lord. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Kasterborous.